Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC 305, Duplessis versus Adesanya. First things first, make sure you smash the subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is the Stats and Stacks podcast, and it's important to follow all levels of social media. We had initially last week locked Alan Nascimento, who then had to pull out of his fight. We were then going to lock Gregorio Charlampos, and what he's just not trustworthy. We try not to lock low level heavyweight or women's MMA. We are forced with no choice in the Carol Hosa, and she came through. So we avoided disaster. Our dogs did not hit, our totals did not hit, but both locks hit. Ultimately, we didn't win anything, but didn't lose any. So I'll take an even night any day of the week. This week, I'm looking to bounce back and actually win, though. Pay per views, we've been doing a little better at outside of the disaster that was UFC Manchester or 304. That was atrocious. That was probably the worst of the year. So we're actually, in regards to pay per views coming off our worst, we're looking to turn around and make it our best over in Australia. Just like the England pay per view, that's going to be weird times. Not as bad. You're not going to have Leon Edwards fighting at 4 in the morning, but it will be around like noon when Aussie time when Adesanya's out there fighting. So just be cognizant of the prelims, especially. They start at 6:30 our time in Eastern time frame. So that means it's going to be 6:30 a.m. in Australia in Perth. So just be aware of that. Smart thing to do is to probably avoid a lot of the early prelim fights, but we're actually going to try to do the opposite in all honesty. There's a lot of prelim fights I like a ton and actually are considering locking. So we're just going to trust our fight tape. We're going to trust the fighters, be cognizant of the time frame. But at the end of the day, even with the UFC drama of are they telling their fighters to be more exciting? Are they telling them how to fight? We're just going to have to ignore all the he said, she said, and just trust what we see. So let's go ahead and jump in the card and just start it with Greece because we're going to go ahead and lock the very first fight of the night here. We are looking at pull it back up. We have Stuart Nicole at minus 225, going up against Jesus Santos Aguilar at plus 185. Over 2.5 is minus 155. Under 2.5 is plus 120. Let's start with Nicole. That's I really, really, really do not like betting a lot of young UFC debutantes. It's not something I like to do. However, this is just catered to him. First and foremost, he is the Australian in this matchup. There's an Australian in like 10 out of the 12 fights. So obviously, he's going to have the crowd behind him. He's undefeated, and the UFC loves pushing undefeated fighters. He's 8-0 coming into this matchup. He's 29 years old, so he's in his current prime. That being said, only being 8-0, he doesn't have the greatest level of competition. That's a little bit of an issue. But outside of his schedule, his jujitsu is phenomenal. That's the main part of his game. He's a very, very high level jujitsu practitioner, BJJ black belt. He has some pretty decent wrestling to accompany it. Not really out in the open, but he does good cage wrestling. So MMA wrestling and just like college and Olympic wrestling, all that stuff is different. He's a very good cage grappler. And then his striking's not bad. When he does want to throw, he has some fancy stuff. He'll throw some spinning wheel kicks and a pretty clean 1-2. If he wants to keep it simplistic. But he's very grinding. He has very good cardio. And he does pressure you. He's someone that never takes a back foot. He's always going forward. So whether he's throwing some strikes to try to get you out of there, or predominantly what he likes to do is pressure you forward with strikes, get your back up against the cage. And again, he's predominantly a good cage wrestler. Once he gets you around that cage, gets you down to the ground, you're in his world. He's a big BJJ guy, and they're a little more trustworthy than debuting fighters that are strikers. Sometimes the lights, it just gets the better of them in front of this massive, massive crowd. But grappling, you've been doing all your life. You'll have the upper hand on the ground. You're less likely to get caught with a submission than you are with a punch. So I feel a little safer with Nicole here. Especially with who he's going against. I think Jesus Aguilar is one of the worst flyweights in the division in the UFC. In all honesty, he's 28 years old. He's sporting a 10-2 record, and he's real fun. He's real fun to fight tape for because you just see the same thing over and over and over again. That thing you see is a guillotine. This man is like I know Dustin Poirier is the founding father of the Gilly Goose Gang. This guy is like his VP. He loves the guillotine. In fact, out of his 10 career wins, let's just go ahead and see how many of them are by guillotine. Let's pull it up here. Um, he KO'd Shannon Ross, of course, because Shannon Ross can't take a punch. But in Contender Series, he had a guillotine. Fight before that was decision. Fight before that, guillotine. Fight before that, guillotine. Fight before that, guillotine. Fight before that, guillotine. He has a split decision, rear naked choke. So half of his wins are by guillotine. He loves this thing. He jumps this thing. In fact, he has a 40% takedown defense mainly because he does not sprawl. His first gut reaction to takedowns, guillotines, loves them. So if you're a good jujitsu practitioner and you know it's coming, you're generally fine with this guy. The robbery against Matus Mendonca was bad. Like it was one of the worst of the year. He did not win that fight, but it was UFC Noche. The Mexican fighter got the rub in that split decision. Sketchy, but Mendonca knew about the guillotine and he wasn't able to get it. It's not working in the UFC. Low level, yeah, you can guillotine people, but not in the UFC. It doesn't work that way. He's very low volume when he is on the feet, and I know he shows a knockout over Shannon Ross. Again, very, very, very chinny fighter, the chinniest we may have ever seen. Between him and Jason Witt, might be the two worst chins ever. But at the end of the day, no power whatsoever, no volume, lands like 1.9 significant strikes per minute. Now, part of that's because he's on his back all the time with his 40% takedown defense. But even like Tyra's a good grappler, just like Nicole is. Knew the guillotine was coming, took him down, subbed him, no problem. His other career loss also by submission. So although he loves the guillotine, he's not some sort of jujitsu whiz. He just has one move. He's very, very small for the weight class. 125 is as low as it gets, so he has to fight at that weight, but he's very, very, very undersized at all times. So he has good cardio. That's about all I got. He's got a good guillotine and he's got good cardio. His jiu-jitsu's not great. His striking's not great. His wrestling's not great. He's just a pretty bad fighter. He's just part of the Gilly Goose Gang, and I'm not supporting that against a BJJ black belt. So Nicole should go out there and absolutely kill him. He should probably sub him in one round, but it is his debut, so be careful. It's the first fight of the night, which is very, very volatile. But at the end of the day, you got to trust with what you see. So the pick is going to be Stewart. The bet's going to be Stewart, probably in a ton of parlays. Next fight of the night. This one I won't have a lot of exposure to. We have Kanan Song at minus 190 going up against Rick, aka Ricky Glenn, at plus 160. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 110. Under 2.5 minus 145. Let's start with Ricky Glenn. There's a difference between Rick Glenn and Ricky Glenn. Rick Glenn was nasty. Came out. I used to think Ricky was the better version. I'm wrong. Rick Glenn came out there, dominated Gavin Tucker. Rick Glenn put up a good fight against Dawson Knox. He went out there, beat Felipe Nover. He was doing good things. Ricky Glenn, since coming back from being like a mechanic or whatever, it was a plumber, I believe, not so great. He came out and got a one punch over Joaquim Silva. That looked good. But Christos Giago knocked him out in one round. Drew Dober knocked him out in round one. Now, I know Drew Dober hits hard, but Ricky is not someone that was known for having durability issues. He was known for having a good chin, but he's older now. He's 35 years old, and that durability is leaving. Those wars are catching up. He's a okay jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's a relatively good striker. But his wrestling's not great. He's rocking a 67% takedown defense. He's very hittable on the feet. Again, not a problem in the past when he had that cast iron chin, but that thing has faded in his older age. In fact, he's fighting a little differently on the feet because he's scared to get hit. And the shots that are putting him out aren't anything crazy. And now he's going up to 170. Now, is that going to help his durability, not cutting as much weight? Or is it going to hurt his durability because he's fighting someone that hits harder? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. And the biggest thing with him is that he gets caught with a checked left hook over and over and over again. Drew Dober put him out with a hook. Chris Giago put him out with a hook. Like literally, look at it: check left hook, check left hook. That is what has been putting him out as of late with no durability. And across the octagon, he's going to run into Kanan Song, who I am not high on. Kanan Song at minus 190 is one of the grossest things I've ever seen. He should not be minus 190 over anyone. But the irony here is that Kanan Song is very, very low volume, but he's good on the feet. He's known for hitting hard, and his hardest and most just utilized punch is a check left hook. So that's not good. 61% takedown defense on his end. He will have a inch and a half reach advantage here. He's someone that used to fight at 185. He's fought a good level of competition. He fought Ian Gary. He fought Israel Adesanya at 185 prior to coming to the UFC. Song himself is very hittable, and that's because he's so low volume. He's not a spring chicken. He's 34 years old. He's kind of older himself. His cardio, he does slow down in fights. Ricky Glenn does have the better cardio here. But again, Song's one thing that he's very good at is a check left hook, and that's what keeps knocking out his opponent. He's just a little too patient at times, and he seems to struggle with like kicks and jabs. If you're very, very simple, excuse me, very simple. Keep it simple, stupid. If you just jab him to death and hit him with leg kicks, he doesn't check leg kicks. And he just allows you to jab him so that he can try to counter with a left hook. So finding people like Kevin Doucette that only jab and throw leg kicks, not a good look for him. Finding people like Ian Gary that only throw leg kicks and jabs, not a good look for him. But he's out here fighting Ricky Glenn. How is Ricky Glenn going to fight at 170? I'm not sure. The most likely outcome is Kanan Song by KO. Ricky Glenn is no durability, and he keeps getting knocked out with that left hook. Song can definitely land that. Ricky Glenn came out with the singlet on and decided to wrestle. Again, 60% takedown for defense for Song isn't good. Like Glenn's not a wrestler. Like that's not what he's known for. That's not what he generally does. If you're Glenn, you're gonna try to out volume him and stay safe. But is he gonna be gun shy, get coming off back to back knockouts? I don't know. I would initially say the over. But with Glenn's chin, I can't do that. I don't know. I don't want to touch this fight. This is one of the fights that it's sheer pass. If anything, I'm going to pick Kanan Song. I do think he eventually finds that left hook. But at the end of the day, I'm not trusting it. I don't want to go anywhere near it. In regards to a bet, it would be Song or pass. It's favorite or pass in this matchup. Next fight of the night. Bear with me, don't turn off the podcast. We have Tom Nolan as a minus 1350 favorite going up against Alex Reyes at plus 800. Over 1.5 is plus 230. Under 1.5 at minus 325. That's insane. But a lot of that is because of Tom Nolan. Tom Nolan is a good striker. Tom Nolan is only 24 years old, so he's getting better each and every fight. Tom Nolan is the hometown Australian favorite here. He'll have the crowd behind him. Tom Nolan can mix in takedowns and has okay wrestling, mainly against the cage as well. Tom Nolan is okay jiu-jitsu. It's not terrible when he gets down there. Tom Nolan is a decent finisher. Most fights end in round one. Tom Nolan has pretty decent cardio. Tom Nolan is very long and fights long and utilizes it very, very well. Tom Nolan very seldomly goes to decision. So all of these are good qualities for 24-year-old Tom Nolan. We've seen him look good, and he's only going to get better at 24 years old. The problem with Tom Nolan is that he has one career loss, and it's by KO. His last fight, he fought literally probably the worst fighter I've ever seen at this weight class in Victor Martinez. Victor Martinez is someone who got knocked out by Jordan Levitt. Not beat by Jordan Levitt, knocked out by Jordan Levitt. Victor Martinez dropped him badly and almost finished Tom Nolan. Tom Nolan on the regional scene against guys that aren't that great. Eternal MMA is a good regional scene promotion. But these guys aren't UFC caliber. Some of these guys had 0 wins, had 1 win in their record. They're 50-50 fighters. Tom Nolan, I've seen get dropped at least twice in the regional scene. So the dude only has 8 fights, and I've seen him dropped like 4 or 5 times. Dude's chinny. One of the times he went out, he fought Nicholas Mata, who's not that good, and put him out. That's not good. Tom Nolan is very reminiscent of like a Oban Elliott to me, where he's good everywhere. He's young. He looks the part. He is a great fighter, but he gets dropped in every single fight. Tom Nolan, Oban Elliott, same exact thing. So I will never bet Tom Nolan at minus 1350 for someone that's getting chin checked in every single fight. Now, good news for Tom Nolan is that he's fighting Alex Reyes, who is god awful. Alex Reyes is the older brother of Dominic Reyes, the Dominator. And I think that's the only reason that he's still on the UFC roster. I mean, the dude has had 2 UFC fights and he was signed in 2017. He literally fought Mike Perry in 2017, got knocked out in 1 minute, and then did not fight for 6 years. Came back, got knocked out in a few minutes by Charlie Campbell, and then didn't fight for a year, and now he's back. UFC is making cuts for a Dana White Contender Series. You lose 3 in a row, you're 0-3 into promotion. They're cutting you. Like at the end of the day, they're just straight cutting you. Reyes. Reyes is 37 years old. Very, very chinny. All of his losses are by KO in like a few minutes. So that's not good. His level of competition is god awful. He's just a can crusher. His jujitsu's okay. His striking's not bad. It's okay. But he slows down in his fights, and they all end in round 1. So the dude has no cardio. The dude has no chin. He's extremely hittable on the feet. Has some of the worst optics. If you touch this guy, he just automatically goes and gets put on skates. He backs up the entire fight and just tries to counter you. Not good. He's not good at all. He hates pressure. Hates pressure. If you pressure him, he just crumbles. And Tom Nolan does fight long, but he will come in and step forward and push forward. He himself is a finisher in Reyes, so that's why the under is what it is. Tom Nolan chinny, Alex Reyes chinny, under 1.5 minus 325. Both have finishing power. I get it. That's a good way to bet this fight. But if you want to get nuts, if you want to get absolutely crazy, you can bet Tom Nolan at minus 1350 and do nothing. Makes no sense. That would be an asinine thing to do. If you want to be the value chaser, God, I can't believe I'm saying this. Alex Reyes plus 800 is ridiculous. No, you can't do that. If you just want to throw $5 on Alex Reyes, I totally understand. You want to throw whatever you want at Alex Reyes. That's the only bet you could possibly make here, unless you parlay the under 1.5. But I think it's going to be Tom Nolan. He should absolutely kill him. This is an extreme setup fight. But Alex Reyes has a puncher's chance, and Tom Nolan's chin is that bad. So the pick is going to be Tom Nolan. The bet would be Alex Reyes, and that's disgusting. And honestly, it doesn't get much better with the next fight. We have Jack Jenkins at minus 800 going up against not Gilbert, but Herbert Burns at plus 550, over 1.5, and the under 1.5, both at a straight pick 'em at minus 115. Let's start with Jack Jenkins. Jack Jenkins is who the UFC wants to win. This is yet another setup fight. Unlike Tom Nolan, Jack Jenkins does have a good chin. He's 31 years old. He'll have the crowd. He has good striking, very good striking. His jiu-jitsu's questionable. His wrestling's getting much better. It's very improved. He's working on it. You can see it. Um, the his cardio's good. His level of competition is much better than Tom Nolan's was. He does everything well. The problem I have with Jack Jenkins is that he has 3 career losses. One of them was a broken arm in his last fight. We have not seen Jack Jenkins in a year because he broke his arm badly in the Chepe Mariscal fight, had to take a year to recover, and now this is his return. So he could possibly have a little ring rust. Secondly, he throws a lot of leg kicks. He throws very intricate leg kicks, a lot of heavy leg kicks. In fact, this dude has broken not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 men legs. Like this dude has 12 career wins, and 6 of them came from breaking his opponent's leg with leg kicks. Like that's insane. That's a crazy stat, something that will never be duplicated. This guy, by far, has the most extreme leg kicks in MMA history. Like this dude's leg kicks are legit deadly and will legit break your bones. But if he's not finishing you, you have a chance at finishing him. He has 3 career losses, one the broken arm, and the other two by submission. And I noticed in some of his fights, even when he was getting takedowns or he got taken down, the dude flails around awkwardly on the ground. He's not comfortable on the ground on bottom. On top, he's shown improvements. He's shown control. He even got a ground and pound finish on Contender Series. Like, good for him. You know, he's a hard worker. I like Jack Jenkins. I think he's a very good fighter. But if he fights a jiu-jitsu ace, he's going to get armbarred. He flails his arms very awkwardly on bottom. He gives up his back to get up. His arms are just there for the taking. His neck is there for the taking. If he fights a jiu-jitsu guy, he's in serious in trouble. And it's funny because I look at it here, and his two submissions were rear naked choke and armbar. Why? Because things haven't changed. That was 2017, 2018. I saw him in literally 2020 against Don Shanis in 2023, which was in Perth, ironically enough. Um, Literally flail his arms around when he got taken down. Like, he was there and then give up his back to get up. So he has not changed in that 5-year period. If he fights a grappler, he's susceptible. If he gets taken down, he's susceptible to getting subbed. He's fighting a ADCC world champion. He is fighting a world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Herbert Burns. Herbert Burns has one method of victory: submission. He is world-class on the ground. His wrestling's not bad. He can probably take down Jack Jenkins. That's not good. This is a terrible matchup for Jack Jenkins. Here's why the UFC set this up and wants Herbert Burns there so that they can make Jack look good. Herbert Burns is 36 years old. Herbert Burns has by far the worst cardio I've ever seen at this weight class. Like, it's bad. He has 5 minutes to get you out of there, and if he doesn't, he quits. And that's the thing. He has no heart. Herbert Burns, if you hurt him and things aren't going the right way, he just folds up and he's done. He's extremely chinny. He's extremely low volume on the feet. So he has a 6-inch reach advantage, which is nice. But although he pressures you and tries to get the takedown and sub early, if he doesn't get it, he gasses, you can put him out. And he's taking this fight on short notice. This guy has one of the worst gas tanks I've ever seen, and he didn't get a full fight camp. Like, that's not good. He has one win equity here. Go out there and sub Jack Jenkins round one. If he does not, he's fucked. If he does, we look like geniuses. Again, Jack Jenkins is minus 800. I am not touching that. Herbert Burns plus 550. It sucks to say, I will probably take a poke. And if you want to get greedy, you can take a poke at Herbert Burns round one sub. Herbert Burns in his last 3 fights, look at it. Julio Arce, round 2, knockout. Bill Algeo, round 2, knockout. And I love what it says. It says exhaustion was the method of loss. Daniel Pineda, fight before that, round 2, knockout. If you sense a common theme here, he gets finished in round 2 because he's gassed. Happens over and over and over again. Is it going to be 4 in a row? Maybe. And he's probably cut. Or he's going to go out and he's going to sub Jack early, like the other two guys. Either way, the under is going to hit. But it happens in round 2 all the time. So I don't like the 1.5. The safest bet is betting the under 2.5. Whether it's Herbert winning or Jack winning, it ain't going past 2.5. But if you want to pick a side and get value, it's Herbert. So the pick is going to be Jack. Safe bet's going to be the under 2.5. And if you want to get fucking nuts, go ahead and bet Herbert Burns by submission. And I'll probably take the round 1 sub and juice it up even more. Get greedy. Next fight of the night, we have more Greece. We have King Casey O'Neill returning at plus 140, going out against Luana Santos at minus 160. Over 2.5 is minus 250. Under 2.5 at plus 185. Let's start with King Casey O'Neill. She's someone that had the world in her hands. She is someone that people were talking about being a future champion. And then everything came crashing down. She's coming off of a 2-fight losing streak out of nowhere. She's no longer the undefeated hype prospect. She's someone that people are turning their backs on. Plus 140 for King Casey O'Neill. O'Neill's only 26 years old, so she's going to get better. She is not Australian, but we talked about Eternal MMA earlier, which is an Australian regional scene. Her dad owns it. So she will have the crowd behind her. She's lived in Australia. Her dad owns a notorious Australian MMA promotion. The crowd will be with King Casey O'Neill. She'll have a 2-inch reach advantage in this matchup. And the biggest weapon she has is cardio. The thing with King Casey, I saw a mile away. King Casey's not that good of a fighter. Her wrestling's overrated. It's not that good. Her striking is overrated. It's not that good. Her jujitsu is okay, but it's not that good. But she doesn't stop, and she doesn't stop blending them. She does not stop coming at you full force for 15 minutes. Her cardio is insane. Her cardio is her best weapon. She's kind of like, she tries to use it like Marab. Marab's definitely more effective. No one can use her cardio like Marab can because he's a really good wrestler and an okay striker. But King Casey does the same thing. It's just nonstop pressure, continually going, and eventually she breaks you. And when you look at her wins, I mean, Roxanne Modafferi, she won a split decision. That was not a split. She won. She outvolumed her. She landed like 206 significant strikes or something crazy like that. Like she set records with the amount of strikes she threw because she has good cardio. Antonina Shevchenko, look at this. Round 2 finish because she broke her. Laura Procopio or Laura Fritzen listed here. Round 3 finish because she broke her. Shayna Dobson, round 2 finish because she broke her. Chris, even before the UFC at UAE Warriors, round 2 finish because she broke her. She's not someone that goes out there and just dominates you early and gets a quick win. You break with her pressure. She weaponizes cardio. She has no power, and she is low key a bad chin. Like when you look at her, she got knocked out on the regional scene. Her first 2 fights, both by knockout. When you watch her against Roxanne Modafferi, she got knocked out, or not knocked out. She got knocked down. When you watch her against Ariana Lipski, it shows submission, but it's because she got knocked down. It was a club and sub. She had no idea where she was on the ground. The girl's low key chinny. Like, it's not a good look. But she throws a ton of volume, has a ton of pressure, and will break you eventually. On the other side, I don't know. Last thing I'll actually say about Casey O'Neill is that she actually switched camps and now went to Fight Ready, which is predominantly a wrestling and grappling camp, which is good for her style. Wear you out, get better at wrestling because she's good on the ground. She's a good wrestler. That's where she wants to be. She's a much better grappler than striker. Fight Ready is a good match with her. The problem is Luana Santos. That's where she wants it. Luana Santos is a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. She's only 24 years old, so she's gonna get better and better. Her striking needs to get better. It's not great. I will say she hits decently hard, but her striking is very. I think Clint at Die Hard MMA podcast says it's the best. It's herky jerky. It kind of reminds me of like Amanda Hebos, where she's not a good striker. It's very like robotic and stiff. Not good striking at all, but she does have some power behind her fist. Jiu-jitsu, world class. She's a very, very, very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. Her wrestling, she's a judoka. She's very good with throws. She can't really shoot a single leg. She's not going to chain grapple. She doesn't have a good blast double. She wants to grab a hold of you and just toss you over and utilize her jujitsu. That's her game. I will say O'Neill is the better folk style wrestler. She's better at the singles, the doubles, but her hips are questionable. I've seen her tossed around before. So Santos will probably have an advantage in that matchup if they clinch up. I want no clinches from Casey O'Neill. I want her to shoot singles and doubles. I do not want her clinching up because she might go for a ride with Santos. But Santos is taking this fight on short notice. O'Neill was supposed to fight Teresa Bleda, who is a jiu-jitsu girl with bad cardio. It was a setup fight for Casey O'Neill to get her back on track. Now they're giving her Santos, who is a decent prospect in her own right. But the one flaw on Santos, outside of her shaky striking, is her cardio. She does slow down in her fights. We see it over and over and over again. Most of her wins are round 1 finishes. Her fights against Stephanie Egger, she gassed out. The fight before that, or 2 fights before that, she won a decision. She gassed out. Jenna Bishop, she lost a split decision because she gassed out. And Jenna Bishop is a jiu-jitsu girl that can't really strike. On the feet, it's O'Neill, hands down. Wrestling wise, I think it's a wash. Jiu-jitsu, I will say slightly Santos, but not off her back. So this really comes down to wrestling. If Casey wants to sprawl and brawl, I think she wins this fight just on sheer volume alone. If she wants to go out there and grapple with her, she has to get the takedown and she has to move nonstop because she will tire out Santos. Santos has questionable wins as well. Like I think this is O'Neal, but I can very easily see her finished. I do think it's Santos inside the distance, or I think it's O'Neal decision or O'Neal round three. But at the end of the day, O'Neal has more ways to win, and she has the plus money next to her name. So the pick would probably be Santos, but the bet would be O'Neal at plus 140. She has the crowd behind her as well. If you want to get greasy that way, she can win the decision. She can break her with pressure, or she can just outpoint her on the feet. Either way, that's more O'Neal than Santos. Pick as O'Neal or pick a Santos, bet is O'Neal. Then that takes us to a fight that I'm confident in and go 50-50 on back and forth. It's weird. We have Josh Cooleybow at minus 155 going up against Ricardo Ramos at plus 130. Over 2.5 minus 130. Under 2.5 is just straight even money. Let's start with Josh Cooleybow. He's someone that I like. I think he's underrated in the featherweight division. He's 30 years old. He's Australian, so he'll have the crowd behind him. He's pretty durable, has really good striking and sneaky good jujitsu. He is a jujitsu black belt. Reason you don't see it is because he doesn't wrestle at all. He's not a good wrestler. He won't do it offensively and defensively. Is sporting a 67% takedown defense. That's not a good number. But he also got taken down 4 times by Danny Silva, and they weren't real takedowns. They were more or less mat returns, kinda like he I don't know. I don't really know how to describe what it was. He literally just ducked under. They were duck unders. Just Danny Silva kept doing duck unders and then getting behind Josh Cooleybow and then just dragging him down to the ground. So it was weird. It wasn't your traditional double, single, throw. It was just a duck under and then just getting back control on the feet. It was like standing back control and then would eventually go down to the ground. It was I don't know. The 67% is a skewed number with that last fight. Very peculiar. His cardio is okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's good enough for 15 minutes. The thing with him is he's usually pretty lower volume because he's a counter striker. He prefers to counter. He prefers to back up, but he's good at it. He doesn't like pressuring forward. He's very good at counter striking while moving backwards, which is unusual. Um, I just don't like the amount that he gives up his back. Whether it's on the feet or if he gets taken down, he gives up his back to get up. That's not good because he's fighting Ricardo Ramos, who is a very good back taker and has a very deadly rear naked choke. Like the best part of Ricardo Ramos's game is his RNC. On the feet, he's an okay striker. He throws a spinning back elbow way too fucking much. He knocked out Eamon Zahabi with it and then just fell in love and thinks that he can knock out anyone with it. He did knock out Danny Chavez with it afterwards, unfortunately. But then he kept throwing it against Charles Jourdain. He threw it against Julian Erosa. This is not working out for him. He needs to stop throwing this spinning back elbow. I don't know why he keeps doing it. Yeah, man. His okay striking. His wrestling's okay. It's not terrible. It's not good. It's not bad. It's probably the same level as Cooleybow. His jiu-jitsu is his best part of his game. He's very, very, very good on the ground. But when he is on the feet, he's kind of hittable, which is good for Cooleybow being a counter striker. He's a former 135 pounder. I don't know if he should be at 45. If he should be at 35. His body's weird. He's kind of a tweener. He's much better going forward and he will go forward, but he has really bad reactions. If you crack him, he like falls over or he runs away, Chelsea Chandler style. Like it's not good. He does not like to get hit whatsoever. A lot of people compare him to like Charles Oliveira, where he can finish you at any point, but if you crack him early on in Charles's career, he'll just kind of give up in there. So it's interesting. He was been finished in all but one of his losses, and it's continually by submission. So just like Charles Oliveira, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu whiz, but defensively he just becomes a liability. He leaves his neck out there all the time. Guillotine choke, Julian Erosa. Guillotine choke, Charles Jourdain. Lerone Murphy, it was a ground and pound actually, so it was a knockout. Saeed Nurmagomedov was a knockout. Manny Vasquez was a rear naked choke. So he's a equal opportunist in regards to finishing him, whether you want to submit him or knock him out. Either way, he's probably getting finished. And even the one decision loss against Zabir Tugugov, Zabir is not a finisher, and Zabir almost got him out of there. So his durability is bad, but he has good jiu-jitsu, he has okay wrestling, and his striking is good enough. So this is a relatively close fight, but he does go forward and he is hittable. And Kulabau is someone that does back up, but counters very well and prefers to fight that way. He is going to be the hometown guy, and it does have good enough submission defense. He's never been subbed. I don't see it happening now. I don't like him giving up his back, but if he does, as long as he can get up, Ramos can get sloppy at times. So the pick is going to be Kulabau. The bet's going to be Kulabau. Then that takes us to the next fight. And this is one where we have to talk about the rumors. Rumors are that UFC told Muhammad Mukayev stop wrestling so much, that they told Carl Williams stop wrestling so much. We've seen people like Talita Alencar, who went out there and shot 24 takedowns against Luciana. In their rematch, shot one. Like, that's weird. Something might be going on. And Dana White did not say, no, I did not. We did not tell them not to wrestle. He denied it and moved, or he just kind of moved on without really answering the question. I don't like that he didn't deny it. I think they might actually be telling people, you're boring. You're going to get cut if you just wrestle the whole time. Outlaw Walter Walker. Walter Walker is a plus 110 dog going up against Junior Taffa at minus 130. Over 1.5 minus 155, under 1.5 at plus 120. Again, we just got to go ahead and address it with Walter Walker. Let's start there. He is Johnny Walker's little brother, which is weird because he is a wrestler. I love that his nickname is the Clean Monster because he's anything but clean. Dude looked a lot different on the regional scene than he did in the UFC. He looked much fatter and just not as much muscle when he made his debut against Lucas Bresky. Still got multiple takedowns against Lucas because everyone does. He's only 26 years old. He'll have an 8-inch reach advantage here. Had decent power on the regional scene, but it didn't show in his UFC debut. I mean, fourth round finishes, okay cardio on the regional scene, did not show in his UFC debut. I think he was clean and not the same guy. His striking, trash. His cardio, ass. His jiu-jitsu, not great. His wrestling, good. But his volume, ass. Does nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, I am not being facetious when I say we'll land 4 to 5 strikes per round. Like, it's very low volume. We'll take you down, hold you down, and hang on for dear fucking life. No cardio whatsoever. On the others, Ed has terrible, terrible, terrible reactions when you hit him. Every time you hit him, it looks like he's getting knocked out, which he might be because Johnny Walker's chin is one of the worst in the UFC. So maybe his brother's is too. On the other side, we have another brother. This is a brother versus brother matchup. We had Junior Taffa, brother of Justin Taffa, and just like his older brother Justin, Junior Taffa is a striker. He comes from Glory Kickboxing, like Alex Pereira, like Cesar Almeida, like some of these Israel Adesanya. He is a Glory kickboxer. He's only 27 years old. He's the Australian, so he'll have the crowd behind him. He's rocking an 81% takedown defense, which is good. I mean, he's very good at stuffing the initial takedown. If you chain grapple, he does struggle, but all Walter has is a blast double. So as long as he can sprawl the first time, he's good. His jiu-jitsu's trash. Once you get him down, he can't get back up. He does generally move forward, has obviously really, really good striking. His cardio checks out for being a heavyweight. So it really comes down to, can he keep this fight on the feet? Now, if the UFC is telling people you're too boring, we're cutting you, they have definitely spoken to Walter Walker and said, you better not pull the shit you did last time. You lost a decision when you probably should have won because of how low volume and boring you were. Like, that's the only reason he lost that fight. He won that fight in my eyes, but the judges refused to reward him for fighting like that. If he has to strike at all with Junior Taffa, he's in trouble. He's probably getting knocked out. The crowd's going to be behind Junior Taffa. Junior Taffa has every advantage. So if it's a clean, even fight, Junior Taffa, as long as he sprawls and brawls, wins this fight. If Walter has to go out there and strike more because the UFC told him to, he's absolutely fucked, and that minus 130 is a gift. So the pick is going to be Junior Taffa. The bet's going to be Junior Taffa. And in this instance, I kind of hope don't wrestle as much is in the cards. I hope the UFC told Walter Walker that. Next fight, you don't have to worry about wrestling at all. I'd be shocked if there was more than one takedown in this matchup. We have Ji Liang Li, aka the Leech, at plus 270, going up against Carlos Prates at minus 340. Over 2.5 plus 125, under 2.5 minus 165. Let's start with the Leech. He's someone I like a lot. I think he's a perennial top 15 guy in the weight class. He's 36 years old, though, so he's getting up there in age. He's been around the UFC for a while. He does have really good striking, but he is coming off of an injury. He had a really bad back injury after that Daniel Rodriguez fight, and it's been about a year and a half since we've seen him. So he might have a potential a little bit of ring rust as well. He throws good volume. He has a good power on him. Again, he has mixed in a takedown here and there before. He's not a good wrestler, but if he needs to, he'll mix it in to secure the round. The biggest thing with him is that he's never been KO'd. He has good cardio and good durability. Now, I've seen him rocked before, but he's never been fully out. And the reason that's very, very key here is because he throws more volume than his opponent in Prates. And Prates is known for being a power puncher. All of his wins are basically by KO. I think he's a glory kickboxer as well. But the biggest thing with Prates is that he is a fight nerd, and fight nerds don't lose. There was a point in time where Fight Ready doesn't lose. There was a point in time when Kill Cliff FC didn't lose, when ATT didn't lose, when AKA didn't lose. Right now, it's the fight nerds. They're the hot camp. Glory MMA, right now, they're the hot camp. They're not losing. And as a fight nerd, he hasn't lost in the UFC. He's 30 years old, so he's in his prime. He's very, very long and lanky. He has a 6-inch reach advantage here. He throws knees up the middle like jabs, like it's insane. He will sneak that knee in up top, or he'll sneak it to your body. He took out Charlie Radke with a knee to the body in round one. I saw it live over in Kentucky just a few months ago. It was fun to watch. Again, 6-inch reach advantage here. 80% takedown defense. So even if the Leech tries to sneak in some wrestling, he's gonna have to catch him off guard because Prates is pretty good at stuffing him. And now he keeps his hands very low, and he's very hittable on the feet. So, like I said, Leech has the volume advantage. But Prates, although he's always spotted outside smoking cigs, seems to have good cardio as well. I don't know, man. The biggest thing on Prates. His whole win streak is predicated on his power. Knockout. Trevin Giles was losing that fight against Trevin Giles, but then knocked him out. Mitch Ramirez, knockout. Fight before that, 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 knockout. So his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights. He is on an 8-fight winning streak. Sorry, 9-fight winning streak. And the last 8 have all been by KO. Like the dude is a knockout artist. He's so powerful. For a tall, lanky body, skinny body, kind of like Anderson Silva. He has a death touch. Will Leach's 36-year-old durability hold up? I don't know. I understand why Prates is the side, but these odds are gonna make me bet the Leech. Plus 270 of the guy that's fought the better level of competition with more volume in a stand-up fight. Plus 270 is too much to avoid. The pick is Prates. Prates should win this fight. Only way I'm betting this fight is the Leech, period. Leech plus 270 is insane. Pick is Prates, bet is the Leech. Then that takes us to the next fight. I think that's the Prates fight is the first fight of the main card. It is. So the next fight we have Tai Tui Bam Bam Vasa. Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa at plus 185 going up against Jairzinho Rosenstruck at minus 225. Over 1.5 plus 160. Under 1.5 minus 210. After doing fight tape, I liked Rosenstruck here. Rosenstruck is a good striker. He's 36 years old, which is a little older, but not at heavyweight standards. It's like 32. 3-inch reach advantage, I like. He does have a death touch. Most of his wins, if not all, are by knockout, which is good. He has like 100 kickboxing fights. Like he's very, very experienced on the feet. For a heavyweight, has shockingly good cardio. Dude can go a full five rounds and be perfectly fine. Mainly because he swings hard, but it's a lower volume. He's he's mentioned how low volume he is. He's had an uptick as of late, but he has a really good level of competition, good schedule, very patient, and a very slow starter. He's a better 5 round fighter than 3 round fighter because he has a tendency to give up the first round. He's just overly patient, making his reads at times. The only other thing I'll say is Volkov knocked him out. It was a questionable knockout, I will say. I think ended a little early, but he pressured him and eventually got the finish. Jailton Almeida, we all know what Jailton does. He sprints out, throws a head kick, and then doubles you. So I wouldn't really say pressure per se there. That was just the takedown and then the choke. But then his other loss was to Curtis Blaze. He just out grappled him. And his other loss was Cyril Gahn, which, I mean, Cyril Gahn is Cyril Gahn. But before that was the Francis Ngannou fight. And Francis Ngannou went out there and pressured him and knocked him out in 20 seconds. So the dude lost to wrestlers and he lost to pressure fighters. He doesn't seem to like being backed up. He's a slow starter and likes to be very, very patient. Both KO losses, round one, getting backed up. In this matchup, he's fighting Bam Bam, who generally goes forward and pressures you. Bam Bam's 31 years old, which is a baby for heavyweight. He's the Australian here, so he will have the crowd behind him. He has a ton of power himself. I think Jorginho hits harder, but Ty hits hard enough. He has good striking. His jiu-jitsu's trash. His wrestling's ass. His cardio, not great. It's not good. I've seen it look okay, and then most of the time, 80% of the time, it's pretty bad. Um, his level of competition is good, but he's a little hittable and he's a little chinny himself. Most of his wins are by KO. Most of his losses are by KO. We've seen him get submitted in his last matchup against Marcin Tybura, but before that, got submitted by Volkov. Got knocked out by Sergey Pavlovich, who's a power puncher. Got knocked out by Cyril Gahn, who actually doesn't hit that hard. Spivak subbed him. Junior Dos Santos knocked him out. So yeah, man, he gets finished all the fucking time, partially because of his jujitsu and partially because of his chin. You can crack him, even in the Derek Lewis fight. And Derek Lewis fights very, very similar to Jairzinho Rosenstruck. Yes, he knocked out Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis won round one. Derek Lewis was winning round two before they got into a wild exchange. He absolutely got cracked by Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis went in, for the kill, it got cracked himself and never recovered, and Ty put him away. The Greg Hardy fight, Greg Hardy absolutely rocked Tai Tuivasa badly. Had him doing the stanky leg, ran in just with a caution to the wind, threw caution to the wind, and he caught Greg Hardy coming in. So those are 2 wins where he got cracked badly doing the stanky leg with his bad chin, and then hit a counter and put them out twice. I don't know if he can do that with Jairzinho a third time. It's also 4 fights in a row that he's lost. I don't know how his mental psyche is. If he loses, he's probably getting cut. 5 in a row is usually a pink slip. So I don't know if the pressure's going to get to him. I don't know what's happening here. I don't really want to touch it. I understand why Bam Bam Tuivasa is live. So what I think I'm going to do is do the kind of coward's way out where you pick Jorginho, but the bet would probably be dog or pass. Um, the over unders is too much too. I can also see him being tentative, and if he's tentative and Jorginho is as patient as he's always is, that over 1.5 is live at plus 160. I can also see that route hitting. So actually, I'm not even going to. That's basically just betting Bam Bam anyway. You might as well just bet Bam Bam. So the pick is going to be Jairzinho. The bet's going to be Bam Bam, but very seldomly by himself. Very little sprinkle. Next fight of the night would actually have the opposite effect as the Junior Tafa and Walter Walker fight if the UFC told a man not to wrestle. Mateusz Gamrot's minus 325. Dan Hooker's plus 260, over 2.5 minus 300, under 2.5 plus 220. Mateusz Gamrot is a top 3 wrestler in this weight class. The dude can wrestle his ass off. He out wrestled Armin Sarukian. I don't know if he out wrestles Islam. Maybe he can. I don't know. He might be the best wrestler at the lightweight division. Dude wrestles. Is his striking bad? No, it's okay. He has a decent amount of power. We saw him knock out God, who did he knock out? Was it Jeremy Stevens? No, he submitted Jeremy Stevens. He knocked out Scott Holzman. Yeah, he knocked out Scott Holtzman, man. Um, Knocked out Diego Ferreira with a knee to the body, but that was kind of fluky. That was weird. But predominantly, what he does is he goes out there and he out grapples the hell out of you. His favorite submission is the Kimura, which is good to note because I've seen Dan Hooker submitted with multiple Kimura and arm locks all the time. He has those tall, lanky arms, and people snatch him up and submit him. But Gamrot's 33 years old. Was predicated on having good wrestling and cardio. His cardio sinking as of late. He slowed badly against Jalen Turner. However, he took that fight on short notice, so I'll cut him some slack. He took it on like 2 weeks' notice. RDA in his last fight, though, he did slow down a little bit in that fight, and he had a full fight camp. So I don't know what's going on there. He predominantly is a good wrestler with good cardio, though. His striking's okay. His jiu-jitsu is very good. He's fought a good level of competition. He's kind of Marabish as well, where he just continually grapples until you get tired and he ultimately breaks you. But he doesn't usually sub you. He usually goes to decision. His top control is not great like Marab if he takes you down. He's not just holding you down for the round. He has a hard time controlling down there. It's a sub, or he gets you, or you get back up and he has to take you down again. But the biggest con with Gamrot is his reactions and his chin. He's been dropped in 4 times. He's been dropped in 4 of his last 5 fights. That's not good. He gets dropped all the fucking time. He's never been finished. He's never been knocked out. Hardy is a lightweight. Knocked him out. Or sorry, is a that's at lightweight. So I'll go. RDA knocked him down. Rafael Fiziev knocked him down. Jalen Turner knocked him down. Neil Dariush knocked him out badly. And Armin Sarugian knocked him down. That's not a good look. I think Guram Kutaladze knocked them down as well. The dude is flying all around the octagon. Great jiu-jitsu practitioner, world-class wrestler, good cardio, really good fighter. Number 5 in the world right now, currently. And when you look in front of him, and this is where it gets greasy, in front of him at number 1, I mean, obviously you have Armin at number 1 on that suspension. And number 2, you have Dustin Poirier, who's basically retired. Number 3, you have Charles Oliveira, who's coming off a loss. And then number 4, God, I forgot who number 4 is, but they're also coming. Oh, Justin Gaethje, coming off of a loss to Max Holloway. So realistically, if Gamrot wins this fight, he should get a title fight. This should be his title fight eliminator. And he's already had one of these. He weighed in as a backup to a title fight in the past. And he never got the title fight. They owe him a title fight. But what I'm petrified of is that they tell him if he goes out there and grapples, they're going to give him the Leon Edwards. They're going to give him the Bilal Muhammad, where he has to win like 11 straight to get his title fight. Like they may push him back and bribe him and say, if you strike, you get the title fight. If you wrestle, you may not. I can see them doing that. And if they do that, he's in trouble with his chin because Dan Hooker is one hell of a striker. He's 34 years old. He has a 5.5-inch reach advantage here. He has okay cardio. He'll slow down in his fights, but he'll go a hard 15. His jiu-jitsu's not great. It's okay. It's not bad, but he has been submitted multiple times. 80% takedown defense anyway. He's not easy to take down. There's a ton of volume out there. He's fought a good level of competition. He throws his knees out there like jabs as well, mainly when you're shooting. He's one of these guys that don't sprawl when you go to take them down. He throws a knee and tries to put your lights out, and that could very well put out Gamrot. My thing with him is that, one, he can be chin checked, so Gamrot knocking him out is not out of the question. I think it's Gamrot decision or submission, but if he caught him, Dan Hooker's been knocked out and rocked multiple times. But the 80% takedown defense might be skewed. Yeah, that's a good number on paper, but we really have to look at who he fought. Jalen Turner took him down. Jalen Turner's not a good wrestler. Claudio Puelles could not get him down to the ground. I think he might have got him once, though, the leg lock specialist. Arnold Allen just knocked him out. Islam took him down, but Islam is one of the best wrestlers, so no shame there. But he was 1-for-1. Let's see, Nasser Haqparast doesn't wrestle. Michael Chandler knocked him out in 2 minutes. Didn't wrestle. Dustin Poirier can't wrestle. Paul Felder can't wrestle. Ella Quinta can't wrestle. James Vick can't wrestle. Edson Barboza can't wrestle. Gilbert Burns can wrestle, but Dan knocked him out in 2 minutes. Didn't get a chance. Jim Miller, okay wrestler, but Dan knocked him out in 3 minutes. Didn't get a chance to wrestle. Mark Diakase back in before he was D1 Diakase in 2017 didn't wrestle. Jason Knight, not a good wrestler, but Jason Knight took him down and controlled him for 3 rounds, took him down 4 times. That's not a good look. So yeah, he's Yair Rodriguez took him down 2 times. Yair Rodriguez can't wrestle. Maximo Blanco cannot wrestle. Took him down 4 times. Like what I'm saying is, yeah, 80% takedown defense has literally fought one wrestler and then he fought 2 okay wrestlers and he knocked them out in a minute so they didn't get a chance to shoot a takedown. So why are these strikers taking you down? Gamrot, he's gonna get it. If he's not getting chin checked like Jim Miller with or Gilbert Burns with a knee up the middle, he's going to take down Dan Hooker and probably easily. That 80% number is not real. But again, if Gamrot strikes a little because he's trying to get that title fight, he's in trouble. So I was leaning under just to kind of cover yourself, but Gamrot's not really a finisher. So this fight's weird, man. Before any of the UFC involvement, it was Gamrot all day. Just take him down, rinse and repeat. But if he decides to strike, that's questionable. If he gets caught coming in, that's questionable. I don't know. The pick is still going to be Gamrot. The bet's still going to be Gamrot, but it's greasy. Dan Hooker's very live. This line is very off. I don't like these odds. I can't choose Dan. He will also have the crowd behind them. It's in Australia. I could see them booing and then getting the fight stood up, but at the end of the day, you got to go with the talent. You got to go with the matchup. So the pick is going to be the number 5 guy in the world, Gamrot. That's what I'm going to end up betting. Then that takes us to the co-main event of the evening. We have Astro Boy, Steve Erceg, love him, minus 165 going up against Kai Kara France. Don't blink at plus 140. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 270. Under 2.5 at plus 200. Let's start with Don't Blink. We haven't seen him in a year and a half. He was having some concussion issues and some other injuries, so it's been a while. But he's 31 years old. He has very good striking. He has good cardio. Okay, power. It shows up here and there. Jiu-jitsu's getting better. It's not great. But it really doesn't matter because he has a 90% takedown defense. The dude's very hard to take down. And here's the thing. Unlike Dan Hooker, his number's higher at 90%. And the people trying to take him down are Brandon Moreno twice, Amir Albazi, Askar Azarov, Rogerio Bontorin. All of these guys are some of the best wrestlers in the weight class. So to have 90% takedown defense, fighting some of the best wrestlers is very, very impressive. Very hard to take down. I don't know. He's a very good fighter. It should be. He has good cardio. And he has good volume. It should predominantly be on the feet. It should be a stand-up fight because KKF wants it there. On the other side, if it does hit the ground, it's Erceg all day. Erceg is a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. Probably the best part of his game. He's just such a good striker that we never see it. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, very head and shoulders better on the ground. His wrestling to get it there, it's okay. He's not good. He's not bad at wrestling. He's just all right. Coming off of a title loss, but showed that he's good to be there. This dude's a very, very good flyweight. 29 years old in his prime as well. Although they're both Australian, Erceg is from Perth, so he may have the crowd behind him. I don't know what they're going to do. If anything, I would say they're cheering for Astro Boy. He has decent power, just like KKF. He counters very well. But what people don't talk about is that he has what I call an Usman chin. Just like Gamrot, who's never been knocked out, I've seen him rocked multiple times. I mean, he did the stanky leg against Alexandra Costa, stanky leg against Pantoja. He got cracked badly against Matt Schnell. And on the regional scene, I saw him at least 2 or 3 times do the stanky leg. So the dude can get hit. He's never been put out. He always bounces back. But you can crack this dude and you can hurt him severely. But again, he prefers to counter, which is interesting in this matchup because he has good striking. It's just when it comes to striking, although they're both good, I would say KKF is the better striker by very slim margins. I do think Kai Kara France is the better striker. On the ground, not even close. It is Erceg. So that comes down to the wrestling. Can Erceg take him down? I don't think he can. 90% takedown defense for KKF. So if I think he's a slightly better striker in an all striking affair, that kind of leans the dog, right? And he's plus money at KKF. That's the way we're going to go. So the pick is going to be Kaikar of France. The bet's going to be Kaikar of France at plus 140. Pretty good underdog. And that takes us to the main event. If you haven't already, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe, smash the like button, share the video, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There's the Stats and Stacks podcast. We have the return of Israel Adesanya at minus 120. He is the favorite going against the current champion, Andriscus Duplessis at minus 100. Over under set at 4.5. Basically a pick 'em over 4.5 minus 110, under 4.5 at minus 120. Let's start with Adesanya. And no, I know everyone says Adesanya. He himself said it was Adesanya, so that's the way we're going to pronounce the last style bender. Phenomenal striker, glory kickboxer, hands down one of the best strikers in the division. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage in this matchup. He's going to have the better cardio. He has great cardio, world class cardio. Okay, takedown defense. He can get exploited when it's 77% takedown defense, so not too shabby. Great level of competition, clearly. He's a 2-time champion, trying to become the first ever 3-time champion. Technically in the UFC history, because Randy Couture and John Jones have been 3-time champs, but they were stripped. They didn't lose it and come back and win it, so technically the first 3-time champion in the UFC. My problem with him is that he's 35 years old. He will have the crowd behind him. He is the Australian here. And he does have a tendency to fight better in high pressure circumstances. When he's fighting Paulo Costa in a grudge match, when he's fighting Alex Pereira in a grudge match, he gets in his own head, comes up with good strategies, and generally, the more pissed he is, the better fighter he is. The problem is pressure. He does not fare well with pressure. Kelvin Gastelum won 2 out of the 5 rounds. It came down to the 5th round. It was 2-2 because he pressured him. Sean Strickland won the last matchup because he continually pressured him. We saw Jan Blachowicz go out there and out wrestle him and ultimately win because he pressured him. All of his career losses came to people that pressured him. He's a good counter striker. He can strike going backwards. It's just they get a little ahead of him if you just continually pressure him. Here's the thing. A lot of people are saying DDP can either pressure him or he can out grapple him and he's going to get the job done. There's a difference with DDP because Israel Adesanya has fought Robert Whitaker twice. Robert Whitaker doesn't pressure, he blitzes. He rushes in, chin a little high in the air, and what did Adesanya do? He cracked him on his way in. Multiple. He did it in the rematch as well. It was a pretty close rematch, actually. And Robert got a lot of takedowns. He got like 3 takedowns. But in between, he did drop Whitaker at one point. Why? Because he doesn't pressure, he blitzes. And that's what DDP does. He doesn't just march forward, march you down, and just destroy you. And he's very defensively sound coming in and swinging, overwhelming you with volume. That's not his game. He takes a step back, blitzes in, and throws like a 4-5 strike combination, chin way up in the fucking air, takes a breath, and then either takes you down or blitzes again. He continually blitzes in. That's not constant pressure. Deshaun Strickland little parrying was perfect. Just keep staying defensively sound, pressure forward, and break Adesanya. Robert Whitaker blitzing in had some success, but eventually got caught. I love Robert Whitaker. I would have preferred he won those matchups, but he got caught blitzing in, and that's how DDP fights. Now, again, he could go the grappling approach. DDP's an okay wrestler and a sneaky good jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's not good off his back or anything, but he has a good front choke series. He has a solid guillotine. He has a solid anaconda choke. Anything where he can wrap up your neck, dude has a tight squeeze. He will put your lights out squeezing your neck. He will squeeze your head off. He throws a decent amount of volume for someone that's so muscly and hits so hard. But he does slow down in his fights. He had the nose surgery to work on his cardio. It 110% helped. 110% a good move on his part. But even in his last fight, he did lose the fifth round against Sean Strickland because he eventually, no matter how many surgeries he has, will gas out. And he himself said he gets tired. So he's liable to get knocked out with that chin way up in the air. He's also liable to gas out. He's been knocked out before in round three because he got tired in KSW. He got submitted before. He's been finished twice. Both of his losses are by finish. And that win against Sean Strickland was a split. It was very close, and a lot of people thought Sean Strickland won that fight. Robert Whitaker, I have nothing to say. He was getting absolutely pieced up. He hit Robert Whitaker with a head and arm of all things, which is like just the. I equate a head and arm to like cherry picking in basketball, where yeah, you're gonna get the basket, but it was kind of like a tap. It's like just something that's very it's frowned upon with these head and arms. Like for a wrestler, you don't do head and arms. Whitaker didn't see it coming, head and armed him, and then had some vicious ground and pound, and Whitaker never recovered, and he ultimately got the finish. Derek Brunson's a gasser. And he took advantage there. Darren Till is a gasser who has no jiu-jitsu, or wrestling, took advantage there. Brad Tavares was a rock'em sock'em fight, a very close fight where he snuck by a low volume aging Brad Tavares. Trevin Giles is now a welterweight who has bad cardio, and Marcus Perez, I don't think ever want to fight in the UFC. So his runs, not that great, all the way up until Robert Whitaker. Nothing to say there. He did what he had to do. And the Sean Strickland fight, he made it 25 minutes. Nothing I can say. I thought Strickland won, but it was a very close fight. I don't think it was a robbery at all. But at the end of the day, he's squeaking by multiple fights. Izzy, he's hit or miss. He looks like the best fighter in the world some days, and he looks like he doesn't want to be there other days. But when he has a grudge and he's mad at you, Pereira, uh, uh, Pereira, Whitaker, actually, to an extent, Marvin Vittori does not like Marvin Vittori. And I don't know why his name is escaping me. God. Paulo Costa. Best performances were grudge matches. This, the whole African champion thing, 110% a grudge match. Him being able to make history, definitely a grudge match. I think it should be a pick 'em, and it basically is. So I'm going to ride with that. The pick is going to be Izzy. The bet's going to be Izzy. He's 35 years old. If he's going to do this, this is his only chance, and he knows it. So pick is Izzy, bet is Izzy. And that's UFC 305, Du Plessis versus Adesanya. It's a good fight card. It's the normal time here. But again, these fights are going to start early in the prelims. Don't forget, it's 6:30 a.m. their time. By come main card, I mean, we're talking the afternoon. We're talking 10, 11. We're talking like 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They'll be fine. They'll be ready to rock and roll. These are professionals. These are the best of the best when it comes to the main card in their respective weight classes. And it's going to be a fun night. And the only thing to make it even more fun is by winning money. Let's get after it.